Alrighty, we are continuing where we left off from the last video, which was down here at the Medes. So, the Medes were the first who began the revolt from the Assyrians after they had maintained the dominion over Upper Asia for a period of 520 years. Wow. So they were in Upper Asia. So they were like pretty much in like Kazakhstan and like I'd say like maybe in Tibet, kind of like over by the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. That's really interesting. Just jumping right in there. This one is of Nabopolassar from Alexander Polyhistor. Nabopolassar, whom Alexander Polyhistor calls Sardanapalus, sent to Astyages, the satrap of Media, and demanded his daughter Amuetes in marriage for his son Nabuchodonosor. He was the commander of the army of Sarachus, king of the Chaldaeans, and having been sent upon some expedition, turned his arms against Sarachus and marched against the city of Nineveh. But Sarachus, confounded by his advance, set fire to his palace and burnt himself in it, and Nabopolassar obtained the empire of the Chaldeans. He was the father of Nabuchodonosor. I'm really interested in the last section that we looked at. We looked at the Sardanapalus and who he was, and what that was a conglomeration of a bunch of kings that were ruling towards the end of the Assyrian Empire. One of them included was Ashurbanipal, which is a notable king during that time. And this is the Assyrian Empire. So these people would have been ruling just before the Chaldeans. So the way it goes is there's going to be all these like foreign rule for a period after the Assyrians, and then come the Neo-Babylonians or the Chaldeans, biblically recorded as. And it looks like some of this stuff is lining up, and that there's a very close connection between the Median kings and some of the Chaldean kings, and notably the Assyrian as well. So this one's of the Chaldaean and Assyrian kings, also from Alexander Polyhistor. In addition to the above, Polyhistor continues thus: after the deluge, Evesius held possession of the country of hold on, let me read this footer real quick, actually. This and the following fragments of Alexander Polyhistor are most probably extracts from the history of Berosus. And that is pertaining to, okay, just this whole segment with, it's like I said, it's really interesting to see that they're using the name Sardanapalus, but well, from what we know about history now is that that's a group of kings, and they got pretty close to knowing that history before they started uncovering all these fragments out there. Very, I just find it very interesting and something very huge to point out. Okay, so I'm continuing off. Chaldeans during the period of 4 Neri. I don't know if I want to look that up. A Neri, assuming it's just like maybe like, I don't know, 90 years or something maybe. And he was succeeded by his son Kamos Belus, who held the empire for Neri and 5 Sasi. But from the time of Shisuthras and the deluge to that at which the Medes took possession of Babylon. Wait, what? There were altogether 86 kings. Wait a minute. Oh, but from the time... Oh, okay. Okay. So it's saying the Chaldeans... So it's saying that Noah, right, ruled Chaldea, which is Babylon, right? So from that point to let's see, the Medes taking over Babylon, which I'm pretty sure that's Ezekiel. I think that's the Babylonian exile, and then this is from, so basically from Noah to Cyrus the Great, there were 86 kings in Chaldea. Polyhistor enumerates and mentions each of them by name from volume of Berosus. The duration of the reigns of all which kings comprehends a period of 33,091 years. What? Dude, that doesn't line up with like any history that we have now. That's crazy. What is this even saying? Polyhistor. Well, I'm gonna read this again. Hold on. Polyhistor enumerates and mentions each of them by name. Okay. From Berosus, we know who Berosus is. The duration of the reigns of all which kings comprehends a period of 33,090. So that's saying from Noah all the way to Cyrus is 33,000 years. 33,091 years. But I mean, that's obvious. It doesn't line up with any type of like canon that we have right now. So I'm assuming what this is that, so we know for, I think we know like unanimously, almost for a fact now, that the Younger Dryas is said to be like this giant cataclysmic event, and that this cataclysmic event, in my personal kind of like perspective on history, to like my truest understanding, I think that like the bloodline of like Sisuthris and Noah, that being the same person, right? Or I forget the Hindu version, it's like Manu or something like that. Anyways, that event happened, I think, like 12,000 years ago, and that pertains to the Younger Dryas, which is like the most recent flood impact event that would have reset an advanced civilization. So when it's saying 33,000 years, I think this is what is including. I think this doesn't disprove like any flood, or this doesn't disprove Polyhistor's account. But what this is referring to is that like Sisuthris was ruling for 20,000 years, and then that extra like, or okay, so like 20,000 years, and then he's ruling for some period of time, possibly after the flood, and then that 10,000 to Cyrus the Great, which is like 600 BC. That span is 33,000 years. So from Noah, the beginning of Noah to Cyrus is 33,000 years, and that includes the Great Flood. Interestingly enough, I think I like that. I think I'll kind of like roll with that, and I'll stick with that. I think that makes fair enough sense, because I think the Younger Dryas is honestly like the fairest, like cataclysmic event to kind of relate to like Noah and the flood. Not that I'm saying that like everything in the Bible is true, but I think it's a good piece of history that you can use, but it's not the truthful history. It's got an idea of what happened, just like this book. Because there was no Sardanapalus, right? We know that it's just different kings now based on what we know. Okay. But when their power was thus firmly established, the Medes suddenly levied forces against Babylon to surprise it, and to place upon the throne kings chosen from among themselves. But when their power, when their power was the Medes suddenly, He then gives the names of the Median kings, 8 in number, who reigned during the period of 224 years, and again 11 kings during some unknown amount of years. then 49 kings of the Chaldeans, 458 years, then 9 kings of the Arabians, 245 years. Were they really called Arabians back then? Arabum? Okay. Okay. That's interesting. Then Arabum, 9, right? 9 kings of the Arabians. That's so interesting. After all these successive periods of years, he states that Semiramis reigned over the Assyrians, and again minutely enumerates the names of 45 kings, assigning them to a term of 526 years. Okay, hold on, let me read that real quick. Jeez Louise. Okay, so Median kings after Babylon was taken over by Cyrus, I'm assuming, right? 224 years, so that's like 300 BCE. 11 kings for some amount of years, nobody knows. And then 49 kings of the Chaldeans for 458 years. Oh, okay. So that's like during the Roman Empire. And then 9 kings of the Arabians, 245 years. And then those must be the early like Shia and Sunni empires, and the early like Ubayyad and Umayyad Arabian kings. Okay, that lines up. So then that means the person who wrote this, what? No, this is written by, okay, this is written by Alexander Polyhistor, so this was around like 100 to 200 BC. No more than, I forget when it was. Hold on, let me look that up real quick. Okay, when was Alexander Polyhistor alive? That's the correct way of saying it. Let me see. All right, let's pull this up real quick. Right, yeah. Right. 100. Yeah, I was getting confused between like the Constantinople Empire and the Christian Rome, the early Christian Roman period, or like proto, which was like when the Nicene Creed was being made, and that's all. Nah, darn it. No, Nicene Creed is in 500. Wait, I'm forgetting my history. When was the Nicene Creed? That had to have been like 500 BCE, right? Yeah, somewhere around there. I was off by 200 years, but that's when Constantinople. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Constantine, yep. Okay. All right. So Alexander Polyhistor, I don't know if this is like an addition or like an ad lib from Cory. But 49 kings, okay, so they would have ruled during like the early Roman and Greek periods, and then the early Persian periods. So these Persians were like, I don't know, related to they were like, I think what was going on was like the Median Persians, right, under Cyrus. They had the satraps. These satraps would be like placed, and these kings would still have their like kind of like rule, because that's how they said like the Achaemenid Empire was, is that like Cyrus like let these people have their religion and have their type of like I guess dominion of that sort. So that explains these 458 years of Chaldean rule, uninterrupted by any of the Persian rule. And then the 9 kings of the Arabians, 245. See, this is like something that doesn't make sense. Like, Alexander Polyhistor wrote this. This wouldn't make any sense. So this had to have been written by Cory or someone after. Sorry about getting stuck on this part. It's just really confusing to me. Okay. After all these successive periods of years, you state. See, this just doesn't make any sense. Because it's saying that the Assyrians have ruled. But I don't know what he means by Arabians. Are these like the Gutians or like people that came outside? I don't know. I don't know if I really want to deep dive into this. Maybe I should, so I can get a better understanding of what's going on. Okay, so we're gonna put this together. Let me see here. Okay, so we have 49 kings of the Chaldaeans, then 9 kings of the Arabians, 245 years. Let me look up which people are referred to as the Arabum. I think this will give us some understanding. The term Arabum is the genitive plural of the Latin word Arabs, meaning of the Arabs. Okay, so it's a Latin word, so as consistent with the text on the left. This doesn't. Okay, so after the 49 kings of Chaldea, which kings ruled in Babylon, right? And I guess in Babylon. This is like really confusing me. Let me see. The 49 kings of Chaldea likely refers to the Neo-Babylonian Empire, which is the Chaldaean dynasty. Dynasty was founded by Nabopolassar, and these people, yeah, see, okay. So there was Median revolt in the Assyrians, and then they okay, so this, okay, here's what's going on. This is what's confusing me in my head. Okay. We have history saying that like there's no Median connection to the Chaldeans. There's no, they're like separate dynasties, and there's like little to no connection to them, and if there is, it's not directly by any of the kings. But this book here is saying that like the Median kings, who are all the ancestors of Cyrus, are the they're the 49 kings of the Chaldean dynasty. So what's that's saying is that the Iranians are like directly related to the Neo-Babylonians, who subjected the Judeans for a period of time. And what interests me is that like there's a disconnection between those bloodlines, and for whatever reason that is, I don't know if it's for like this is some sort of like historical like taboo that's in those lands. But that's what was confusing me. Now I see it. Okay, so, but see, now what's interesting is that after these 49 kings, right, then we know for a fact after like those Chaldeans, right, is Cyrus the Great. So is he saying here that Cyrus is an Arab? But then what does it mean when they say Arab? Because I have an idea of what Arab means, but I don't know if it's like the same context back then as if it is what I'm thinking in my head. So let me see here. Yeah. After this, the Babylonian was no longer ruled by Babylonian kings. It became a satrapy within larger empires of the Achaemenid Persian Empire. and then the Macedonian dynasty, and then yeah, the Seleucid Parthian. That's how I learned it. So who are these 9 Arab kings? Like, what the heck? Because I was thinking like this is like Christian era that they're talking about, but this is still before that. It doesn't make sense. It's saying that like it's saying that like Cyrus is an Arab, but how could he be an Arab? It doesn't make any sense to me. Let me see. Would Cyrus be considered an Arab? No, Cyrus would not be considered an Arab. He was a founder, which is the Achaemenid Empire, which is the Persian Empire. They're Indo-Iranian people. Yeah, see, I don't know what's going on here. This is so confusing to me. The only way this makes sense is if those 49 kings include Cyrus. But then who are these 9? I don't know, dude. I just wasted so much time looking at that, but now I'm really curious to know what's going on and being said. So, what the heck? Okay, so he states that Semiramis reigned over the Assyrians. After all these successive periods of years, he states that Semiramis reigned over the Assyrians, and again minutely enumerates the names of the 45 kings, assigning them to a term of 526 years. And then the Assyrian. Oh man, dude, what the heck is going on? I'm getting so confused by all this. After whom he says there was a king of the Chaldaeans whose name was Phallus, of whom also the historical writings of the Hebrews make mention under the name of Pul, or Phyllis, who they say invaded the country of the Jews. Okay, so these are the Philistines. Pul. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna end everything right here. We'll continue on this part, but I'm gonna end this video kind of like breaking all this down, because this is like totally throwing me off. Okay, so Median kings, 8 in number, who reigned a period of 224 years in Babylon. Okay, Median kings, they're in Babylon, both 11 kings during whatever years. Then 49 kings of the Chaldeans, 458 years. This doesn't make any sense. After all these successive periods of years, he states that Semiramis. Okay, so who's Semiramis? Okay, let me look up. I think we didn't check this in the last video, but I forget, honestly. I think he's a semi-legendary figure, like the first Assyrian king. What the heck is going on, man? Yeah, see, he's the oh, what the heck? She is primarily known as a legendary Assyrian queen, but her story is largely based on a real historical figure, Samu Ramat. She was the queen of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. Oh, okay. Wait. Oh, so this is okay. So this is the Neo-Assyrian Empire. Oh man. Okay, so when was the Neo-Assyrian Empire, and was it after Cyrus? Right, it had to have been after Cyrus. And was this also after the Babylonian exile? Okay. The Neo-Assyrian Empire existed roughly from 912 BC to 612 BC. This period was an immense military power and expansion, which the Assyrians. Okay. So Cyrus the Great. Yeah, see, this happened. I don't. Dude, what is this book saying? Semiramis was from the Neo-Assyrian in the same time period. Okay. Maybe it's going back in time. Kings assigning them to a term of 526 years, after whom he says there was a king of the Chaldeans whose name was Pholas. Okay, so, oh man, dude, this is like so confusing. Now I'm just like getting twisted with everything. No, the Assyrian Empire predates Cyrus. So this is just like a scattered text. This is just so confusing right now. The king. Okay, so after the king of the Chaldeans, right? There was a ruling of the Chaldeans. His name was Pholas, but that's got to be Nabopolassar, right? Let me see. So let me look up what they're gonna give me the answer for Pholas or Pool. So let me see how Pholas or Pool refers to Tiglath-Pileser III, one of the most significant and powerful kings in the Assyrian Empire. There was a king of the Chaldeans. So this was the Neo-Assyrian Empire. This was the royal name. Okay. He seized the throne. Okay, so this is still during, this is all before Cyrus and the Babylonian exile. He was a relentless, successful military leader, leading campaigns that expanded Assyrian control over the Near East, including Syria, Palestine, and Babylonia. He is prominently mentioned in the Old Testament due to his interactions with the kingdom of Israel and Judah. King Menahem of Israel paid tribute to him. He deported the Israelite population from the northern regions. King Ahaz of Judah appealed to him against Aram and Israel, while not the first to use it, extensively employed. Okay, so one more thing before you end this video. I'm just gonna ask it. So this is separate from Babylonian exile, but these are not the Philistines. Are they? Do they separate? Let me see, let me word this. Let's see here. Significant reforms centralized power. Leading campaigns, much of the new race. Did any of the kingship in Palestine separate from the new Assyrian Empire towards the end of the new Assyrian, I will say, dominance. Okay. The deportations carried out by Tiglath-Pileser III were separate from and preceded the Babylonian exile. Tiglath-Pileser and later kings like Sargon and Sennacherib systematically deported populations from conquered territories, including parts of Israel and other regions of the Levant. The Assyrians used deportation as a key tool for imperial control. We understand how that works. This specific event, which the Babylonian exile, was carried out by Neo-Babylonian Empire. This is separate from the Assyrians, right? Okay, so, and then I also asked it, were these the Philistines? No, the Tiglath-Pileser deported kingdoms of Israel were Israelites, not Philistines. Distinct group of people, often having Aegean origins, who settled southwestern plains of Canaan around the Philistine city-states, like other polities in the Levant, usually fell under Neo-Assyrian control. Yeah, so they were just a vassal state. Okay. Any of the kingships in Palestine separate from the Neo-Assyrian Empire towards the end? Okay, so let's check it out. It says, yes, that the final decades of the Neo-Assyrian Empire were marked by significant internal strife, right? We know there's a takeover that happened, and then obviously the Neo-Babylonians come over, right? That's what it says literally right there. External pressure from rising powers like the Babylonians and the Medes. This weakening of the central Assyrian authority created opportunities. Okay, so let's see here. Towards the end, vassal states, in essence. The region of Palestine was a constant hotbed. Rebellious form. But where's... Oh, man, okay. Man, I try to make these videos 20 minutes long, but I always end up going way too long on it. Alright. Okay, I'm gonna ask one more thing, and then I'm seriously gonna end the video. Let's see here. The Philistines. So, when were the Philistines known, and when did they rule? To have invaded the kingdom of Judah, right? Because I remember also too that like the Philistines were also like rivals with the kingdoms of Israel. I remember they were like, this has always been like a point of contention. Let's see here. Okay, so yeah, this all happened like way before. Okay, yeah. See, I'm well versed in the history, but I really do forget a lot of what happens during the times. I don't remember names all too much. I just remember time periods for the most part. Especially during these time periods when they're not so... when they're like between semi-legendary and like historically canon. Because it's very articulate, and then obviously you have the victor telling the story, so... yeah, in any case, we're going to leave off here with Sennacherib and unpack what is said there from, again, Alexander Polyhistor.